Okay. Hi, everyone. All right. I am presenting on the happiness theory, and this is Stephanie Farnsworth. So, let's get started. Okay, so the creators and dates of this theory. The original, well, I guess you could say the original creator of the happiness theory is Martin E.P. Seligman, and it was in 2002, and he published Authentic Happiness, and which is a book, and he just that's what the article that we read was talking about, and he coined the phrase positive psychology. He really made a push for that. So he's a really big man in this happiness theory world that we're going to be entering. And then the man who wrote the article that we read was Mike W. Martin, and that was published in 2007. And I'm going to be taking some of my information from both of these people and a few other people. From what I have gathered and researched, the happiness theory isn't just one person's creation. It was just kind of like a spark, and people caught on, and people have added to it, and so that's what we're going to discuss. The definitions that I found in the readings, according to Seligman, his definition of happiness, the happiness theory, is authentic happiness comes from identifying and cultivating your most fundamental moral strengths and using them every day in work, love, play, and parenting. And we will talk about what he means by that later on. But some other definitions that Martin kind of included that we need to be aware of is that the definition of happiness can fall under two categories: morally laden and morally neutral. Morally laden is full of morals and values and just, yeah, I mean, that's all there is to it. There's morals and values included into it. The morally neutral, in my opinion, they try to stay more scientific. They don't throw moral values in there with their findings or descriptions and whatnot. As I read the article, you can really tell that when they really want to stay more scientifically based, they stay more morally neutral. When you throw in morals and values, it becomes a little murky and very subjective to opinion. Okay, so some unique language that we need to be aware of is happiness and well-being are going to be kind of interchangeable as far as Seligman goes. But their definition of it is the experience of joy, contentment, or positive well-being, combined with a sense that one's life is good, meaningful, and worthwhile. And then, of course, we're going to see the words virtue, morally laden, moral neutral. We talked about those. There's also gratification, which is positive activities that we like doing for our own sake. Optimism, which is augmenting positive emotions by accenting the likelihood of good events, downplaying bad events as temporary and limited setbacks, and maintaining stronger self-confidence. And then strengths, which are, according to Anderson and Haney, desirable personal qualities and characteristics, talents and skills, environment, interests, and aspirations. And we will go into talking about strengths later. Authentic happiness, he uses this term, and it alludes to the virtues, all the virtues that he talks about, and not just authenticity. And then it is also the happiness produced by virtues consists of those gratifications constituted by exercising virtues. Okay, And then some desired outcomes of this theory. There weren't really some like really solid outcomes that they talked about, but really just the whole purpose of this theory is happiness. They talk about authenticity and how that will lead to happiness. So I think an outcome, which also produces another outcome, is authenticity. And then they really talk about the utilization of virtues and strengths. And that's kind of the meat of what we're going to really talk about. So to get into it, some foundational theories, they really, the meat of this is really the virtues and strengths that Seligman has really narrowed down. They did a lot of research, and it mentions this in the chapter, the 5th chapter in Anderson and Haney, and they talk about each of these. And they narrowed it down to wisdom, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. And with each of those, they have corresponding strengths, and which build up these virtues. And he really talks about how we need to figure out our strengths and utilize those to make our lives happy. And when we really apply those to our work and our recreation and everything, every aspect of our life, that will produce happiness. Some things that they mention are how to increase happiness is exercising our personal virtues and signature strengths. I already mentioned that. He really stresses being optimistic, and then cultivating appreciation of the good things in our lives and our very existence, and stop dwelling on the bad. And within that, he talks about gratitude and forgiveness and how those are important to find happiness, because he talks about happiness in our past, present, and future, and that was about happiness in our past. Obviously, forgiving, letting go past things, and then looking at what we can be grateful for and gratitude in our life. Some more things that I found another article that also talked about the happiness theory, and some things in there that they mentioned were to have happiness-enhancing thoughts, being grateful, staying optimistic, living in the present, and savoring life's pleasures, and then happiness-enhancing behaviors, building relationships, exercising regularly, developing meaningful leisure, and helping others. And obviously, as TRs, we want to focus on the developing meaningful leisure. I mean, that could include exercising regularly and helping others and building relationships, but those are going to be kind of, I think, side effects of what we focus on. So some assessment tools that I found in the articles, it talks about self-reports of levels of overall satisfaction. You can assess them by satisfaction with one's life, positive emotions that someone expresses. And then I have found a lot of questionnaires that there's a link to the Authentic Happiness page, and it has a lot of questionnaires that are really in depth, and I went and I took one, and I'm going to talk about it in just a minute, and which are really good tools to use. So as far as application for TR, so going back to the questionnaires, if you follow this link, you can, there's a ton of them, and I list some of them on another section of this presentation, but it goes, they do happiness, meaningful life, questionnaires, lots of them, and they're more credible than, you know, just your Google type personality test. So as far as like the whole application for TR, I didn't really find a ton of stuff on this. So Sister Sargis, if I really botched this part, please comment in your comments and correct everyone, and everyone make sure you take a moment to look at her comments, because she's got the goods and can correct me if I'm off on all this. So as far as assessment goes, you have a client, and you could, some things that I thought of were, you could ask them what they think their strengths are, because I think we have a different perspective of ourselves than other people, or our true selves, and then have them take this questionnaire that is on this site, and then assess kind of what aspects in their life are holding them back. So are they not, do they seem to not acknowledge things to be grateful for in their lives? Are they just kind of negative people? Do they tend to have a pessimistic attitude? There's different aspects of this happiness theory that you can really look at to see, okay, what do we need to target to help this person be happier? And then from that assessment, obviously you would use that to find out what activities and programs would best be for this person. What will they thrive in? What can strengthen their strengths? Really utilize those strengths, really focus on that, because as far as Seligman goes, that is where happiness is going to be found, is in utilizing those strengths. So after you've found some good activities or programs for them to be involved in, obviously you're going to put them in those activities and programs. Also, there's in the next slide, there is going to be a list of activities that is mentioned, and so you could use those activities for implementation, have them do that. And then evaluation. The thing that I thought of is you could re-administer the questionnaire, because I think once we kind of change our way of thinking and are okay with acknowledging our strengths, because I feel like at least in the LDS community, we are taught, not intentionally, but we're taught to hide our strengths, hide our talents, through being taught being humble and not boasting. And we're also taught to use our talent, and that's what we need to focus on. But so re-administering the questionnaire could help someone who didn't really want to acknowledge their strengths before because they thought it would be boasting or whatnot. Then they might be more open to really being honest on this questionnaire. Really, maybe they've seen something in themselves that really shows them who they really are, and they can retake this questionnaire, and it can be more helpful in their life to really see them, and then move on from there. So the next one, the activity part of this assignment, I wasn't quite sure how to go about this. The activity that I found that I'm going to use as my activity is gratitude journaling. And there's some supported sources in yellow supporting this. And in the article that an additional article that I found that talked about happiness theory, it also talked about expressing gratitude through journaling. So I don't know if we as a class are supposed to do this activity, or if I was just supposed to find an activity. But if we are supposed to do this as a class, I would encourage you guys to take a few moments to get out a piece of paper and write 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. And keep in mind, don't do one-word answers. Don't just write family, a home, you know. Write, I'm thankful for this because it has this meaning in my life. You know, write a good sentence or 2 and really put some thought into it. And then if you feel so inclined, please comment on the discussion board that this is going to be posted on, your experience with that. Maybe you had no outcome. Maybe it didn't really affect you, but if it did, please write how it affected you. Maybe you were really stressed out before this video and it helped you just kind of realize, maybe gather your thoughts and realize, okay, life isn't so bad, but who knows, you could be just as stressed out afterwards as you were before. But please tell us your experience. Some additional activities that I found were these are some questionnaires on that site that I listed earlier. So you can see it kind of these are just a few. There's like a ton of other ones that were on kind of different topics, kind of related topics, but not exactly happiness. So I just copied the ones that kind of fit with what we're talking about. So you can see that there's some really good questionnaires. Okay, and then some other activities that I found in another Anderson and Haney article. This is not the Anderson and Haney book that we read out of. This is the article. So she talks about strengthening goal commitments, reminiscing about positive life events, cultivating flow, practicing forgiveness, and here she says expressing gratitude through journaling, and then performing acts of kindness. So these are some other activities that someone could do to cultivate happiness. And then here are my references. I hope that they're helpful. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation, and I hope it's helpful to fill out the table. I really tried to include everything and get some good sources. So there you go.